Hi YouTube, it's Kathy, and this is my weekly entertainment wrap-up for June 12th through 18th. This week I read 3 books, I watched 3 shows, I watched 2 movies, and I listened to 1 book. First this week I read Killer Queens. I found this at the library and all I could see was the spine, and just looking at the graphic novel section I was like, I bet that one is queer, and yeah, it was. In fact, the tagline is, "We put the sass in assassins." Essentially, our main characters of this one are a gay man and a sapphic woman. I didn't see any identity for her on the page, but she was definitely into women, whereas he was definitely into men. They used to be assassins for hire, but they decided to get out of that business, and now they're trying to do other things that aren't just kill people because they were told that they had to like kill some children and they were not down with that, so they decided to do other things. Admittedly, the plot of this is a little bit chaotic, but what made it fun was all of the different creatures and people they found along the way. For example, the ship they're driving apparently actually used to belong to this monkey and they stole it from him, and every time they encounter him they just call him Fluffy and he hates that. And then in his employ he has hench otters. Yes, these look like big beefy men, but they have the head of otters. They're pretty cute. In fact, at the end of this comic there was a story about one of those hench otters, and that was adorable. There was also an afterword where the writer was talking about how excited a childhood him would have been that he was able to write this, and that type of stuff just warms my heart. The other graphic novel I read this week was Cheer Up, Lovin' Pom-Poms. This is about 2 girls. One of them is a trans girl. She's on the cheerleading squad. They sometimes treat her a little bit like a mascot because of this, and that's a big problem because that's not how you treat people in general. And because she doesn't like being the center of attention. Our other main character is a girl that's kind of a loner, actually used to be really good friends with the trans girl, and then there was a kind of a rift in their relationship, but she needs some form of school activity so she can put that on her transcript so that she can maybe get into a college. Because she does great academically, but she needs to prove that she is a team player, which she definitely is not when she starts out. Her mom used to be a cheerleader, she's friends with the principal, they decide that she should also be a cheerleader. Obviously, these two reconnect. It's cute, it's sapphic, it's trans, and I love a queer sports graphic novel. The other book I read this week was Drag Me Up. This was the group read for the Queer Romance Readathon, and that's why I read it, because I wanted to participate, but I knew I wasn't going to pick out an entire TBR, so I figured I would at least read this one, because even just reading this one, I believe you get a bingo on their bingo board. I think I vaguely knew going into this that this was erotica, but oh my goodness, it was too much erotica for my very ace little heart. And that's not a problem with the story itself, it is what it's supposed to be. It was just a little bit too much for me. This is a Hades and Persephone retelling set in a place called Chaos Falls, and it doesn't make clear that they're gods. It doesn't say they're gods at all, but they all are very legendary in this town. So they are basically really running these various different districts. Hades owns a casino, which also has a theater and a couple of other things, and then various other gods own other things that make sense for those gods. And then Persephone is an acrobat who is doing a show at that theater. They meet, obviously they fall for each other, all those types of things. In addition to the way too many sexy times for me, but that's just me that had enough sexy times for what it is, this had a conflict, it had people talking about their feelings and talking about consent and all of those good things. The author also obviously made me care enough about the characters because I will never forgive them for what happened at the end of chapter 29. And overall I enjoyed this, but by the very last steamy scene, because I knew there was going to be another one, because obviously there's going to be another one at the very end, I just kind of flipped through to make sure I wasn't missing anything plot-wise, and just ended my reading experience there. I will never shame the allosexual people who are in these types of books, but I won't necessarily understand their choices either. On to the shows I watched this week. We also watched a couple more episodes of Inventing Anna, so we haven't gotten to the end of this. I haven't figured out how it resolved. However, I am starting to remember that there was a book written called My Friend Anna by one of the characters who's represented in the show. So now I'm thinking once I finish the show I might have to read that book because it's an interesting case and it's fun to be like, who's lying and how much are people lying, and it's probably a combination of everybody's lying a little bit because everybody's perspective is a little bit different. It is very fun, however, to see this journalist trying to untangle things, and we finally figured out what happened in her past that made her kind of a pariah, and it made me hate her boss even more. Because the show already gives you a sense of he's kind of a dick, but you don't really know why. Chad and I also watched the first 7 or so episodes of Love, Death, and Robots. This is a weird show because it's based on short stories and all of the animation styles are different in every episode. The episodes are different lengths. They're all different short stories. And my biggest problem with it is, sure, yeah, it's called Love, Death, and Robots, so yes, people die. Okay, cool, that's fine. But the violence is super gratuitous, and the nudity of women is super gratuitous, and all of the women tend to have the exact same body type, and that's just annoying. It's just annoying. I don't like it. And especially because there's nothing tying these episodes together, I don't really care. Especially because some of them are really short and really forgettable. I'm sure if you've read the source material or anything like that, it'd be more interesting to you, but it wasn't super interesting to me. I also watched, I believe, the first 5 episodes of the new Iron Chef reboot on Netflix. This is kind of fun. It's set up in an interesting format where there are 5 Iron Chefs. There are a bunch of different people that are coming in, obviously, to try to beat the Iron Chefs. It's the same principle of you get a secret ingredient, you have to showcase it in a number of different meals, there's judges judging you, but at the end, whichever competitor from the season has the most points gets to do a battle royale with all of the Iron Chefs, and only if they beat all of the Iron Chefs do they win this legendary prize. I love how overdramatic the chairman is. That is always very fun to me. It's also very fun that the third judge every episode is different, so you get to see different people you might have seen on other shows or in other movies or that type of thing. And the challenges have been super interesting. In fact, kind of mid-season they did a challenge where 2 Iron Chefs were on one side and 2 Iron Chefs were on the other side, and they were just battling each other, and they didn't have anybody who was challenging them. They were challenging each other, which was kind of fun. I love food challenge shows like this because people have such a passion for it, even though the majority of the things that people make I definitely can't eat. In fact, so far we've had a whole episode where you needed to use different types of milk, and I'm like, yep, cool, I'm lactose intolerant, this is not the episode for me. Not to mention the fact that I don't eat meat, so yeah, a lot of the things are meat-based, and I can't eat those, but I love watching other people make them. On to the movies we watched this week. I made the really, really terrible mistake based on the cast list that I should watch That's My Boy. I saw, you know, Adam Sandberg and Susan Sarandon and Vanilla Ice, and I was like, this movie is gonna be weird and wonderful, but of course the top billing is Adam Sandler, so it was, no, not a great movie. I didn't read the premise of the movie, and had I done that, I might have saved myself some time. You see, back in 1984, this 13-year-old boy sleeps with his teacher. That teacher becomes pregnant, that teacher goes to jail for sleeping with a student, that child grows up into Adam Sandberg, and he's getting married, and he's told everybody that he doesn't have a family because one of them is in prison still, and one of them is his dad, and we don't really like him. And then, of course, his dad kind of crashes the wedding preparations, and it's a whole mess. The thing about these types of movies is there is always some humor you can actually be amused by, but then there's also a whole lot of other stuff that you're just like, why did this have to be in this movie? Like, yes, it's funny you named your kid Han Solo. It's not funny that your kid came out of statutory rape. Also, I don't really buy that she would have gotten 30 years considering people murder people in the States and get out in like 5 years, but whatever, that's like the least of my problems with this movie. The other movie I watched this week is Seven Psychopaths. This one is an interesting and weird kind of movie. It's about this guy, played by Colin Farrell, who is living in Los Angeles and writing his screenplay, which he has called Seven Psychopaths. Except for he hasn't really written it, he's basically just got the title. So he starts trying to collect psychopaths, and he starts getting all these different stories from different people, and he's trying to put them all into this one script together. And we are meeting those characters along the way, because people will tell him stories and then he'll meet the people that the stories are actually based on, and it's basically a combination of him writing this and then some other things happening where he has this friend where his job is basically kidnapping dogs and then getting the rewards later when people put up reward posters. But of course one day they kidnap the wrong dog and there is a psychopath that wants to kill them for this. And I mostly just wonder if anyone looked up the actual definition to a psychopath before this movie was written or before the fictional movie within the movie was being written. Because it's being used colloquially, for sure. Some of the performances were interesting, but overall I don't really know how to feel about this film. The book I listened to this week is The Summer of Bitter and Sweet. This was an amazing book, and I think this was this author's debut, and if so, wow, I cannot wait to read more things by this author. This one definitely has some trigger warnings, so check those out going into it. I always have links down below as to how you can do that. I will talk a little bit about the trigger warnings for this one. Kathy from editing here. I haven't actually even started editing. I just came upstairs to start downloading footage. I also want to tell you at the beginning of this book there is a foreword by the author who talks about the trigger warnings and talks about why they are important for her to include, and it was just so good. Like, from that point I was like, this is going to be a book that is handled with care and I'm going to enjoy it, and I was right. Our main character is Lou. When it starts out, she is about to go on a date with her boyfriend, and right from the get-go we kind of get the understanding that he wants her to do things that she is not comfortable doing. This is actually exacerbated to a point where she decides that she needs to break up with him, and then there are some scenes that are not great. In her past, she was caught in somewhat of a lie, which really hurt some of her friends, which is that she has always been able to pass as white. In fact, half her heritage is white. Unfortunately for her, that's because her native mother was raped, and her father has been in jail because of that ever since. In fact, he got a pretty short sentence, but then he also killed somebody in jail, so his sentence was extended. As you might be able to guess based on the title, this book takes place over a summer. It's the summer after she graduates from high school, and she's actually working at her family's creamery, which is the ice cream shack. They actually have a dairy farm, and then they actually make all the ice cream themselves, and they are selling the ice cream out of this shack. She's supposed to be working there with her best friend, who is originally from Ireland, and that was lovely to see just because I miss being in Ireland and I miss that accent. So every time it sort of came out in the audiobook, I was delighted by that. But then that boyfriend is also supposed to be working with them that summer, even though he's a lazy ass who doesn't even really show up to the first day when they're setting things up. And then on the first day of the season, she finds out that somebody from her past is also going to be working with them this summer. Something I found really interesting about this book is interspersed between the chapters, there are always these little write-ups about the different type of ice creams they were making and the different flavor combinations and how to fix different problems when you're making ice cream, and I found that really interesting, and I also kind of guessed why it was there, and I was so happy I was right. At one point, not too far into the summer, she finds a mysterious letter in her bag, and it's from somebody who she does not want to see. I feel like I am not doing justice to telling you what this book is about, mostly because I don't want to tell you everything ahead of time. That's not how I like to talk about books. But this book has so much packed into it. It's about owning your sexuality and coming into understanding of whether or not you might be asexual. It's also about owning your identity in other ways, because for the longest time she passed for white, and now she is letting her indigenous heritage seep more into who she is. We also get to see how her denying that actually affected her family she lives with. This also had queer side characters, a bisexual love interest. Like, this had a lot going for it that was really, really good, so the sweet side, but it also had a lot of the bitter side. All I can say is this book is fantastic, and it was such a surprise because I don't even know who recommended it to me. I just kind of put a hold on the audiobook one day when it came in. I had no idea what it was about, and I just absolutely ended up loving it. There's also a point in the story where there is a scavenger hunt of sorts, and the very first location they go to for the scavenger hunt is a place that we went to on our road trip across Canada. Chad, what did we randomly find?
Oh shit, I don't know what it's called anymore. What is it? What was it? Like,
World's largest Easter egg.
Oh, world's largest Ukrainian Easter egg. It's got a name like Prisanka or something. It was designed by a computer and cut out in all different parts off of like a CNC thing. It was one of the first things that was like computer designed like that.
I was very excited about that. I immediately texted Chad that the characters in the book are at the world's largest Ukrainian Easter egg, and he's like, I've been there, and I'm like, me too, obviously. So yeah, on a personal note, that was great. They also went to other locations that we'd been to, which was wonderful, because yes, this takes place in Canada, between the borders of Saskatchewan and Alberta. That's it for this week. If you've read, watched, or listened to any of these, let me know about it down in the comments below. On the way down to the comments, if you hit that subscribe button, that would be very nice of you. If you don't feel like leaving a comment, but want to make sure that I know you're here, just leave me an emoji or a smiley face if you happen to be on your keyboard. Some people have asked if there's a way to financially support this channel, so I set up a Ko-fi account, which is a digital tipping service. The link for that, as always, is down below. You can like and share this as you see fit, and I will see you very soon. Bye!